So, welcome to Don't Follow the Shepherd. I have a guest with me today who's on the East Coast. I actually met her on the West Coast. She'll be returning to the West Coast. Sophia Graniela, who is an EFT coach, um, really refreshing person to talk to, a beautiful soul who shared a story about a journey of sobriety and helping women. And I'm just really eager to hear you kind of retell in a little more detail how you got to where you are now. And you post some really beautiful messages on your Instagram account about kind of shedding the old and embracing the new. And let's stick with that theme and then maybe talk more specifically about your coaching.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. I am so honored that we met at that coffee shop that day. It was just such a beautiful moment. And really, I want to go all the way back to my childhood. So, I grew up in a family where there was a lot of alcoholism and substance abuse, mental health struggles. And I always, from a young age, had to earn love. With my relationship with my father, I felt like I always had to prove my worth to him. I had to be that perfect daughter, get the perfect grades, meet all of his expectations. And I was always met with a lot of disappointment. And so from a young age, I started to really try to prove my worth. And I was also bullied at a young age for looking different than most children. I had hairy arms and a mustache. I'm mixed ethnicity. And so I just learned from a young age, essentially, that I was not going to be loved and accepted for who I was. I was an intense, passionate, emotional child. I was goofy, I was creative, but I was always shamed for those parts. So essentially, growing up, I just started to really dim my light. And at the age of 15 years old, I went to my first music festival. And it was really just my mission in life to feel that love and that sense of belonging. So I started to, play experimentation with alcohol and substances. And it gave me that sense of like freedom and confidence and liquid courage. And pretty much from the time I was 15 years old until I was 29, I got lost in a lot of self sabotage, toxic relationships. I got myself in a lot of debt. And I was just really unhealthy and disconnected from myself. My identity was so rooted in being that overachiever, the hustler, the fun friend. And I lost my true essence along the way. And so over the last 2 years, I have been on my healing journey. I'm now a year and a half sober. And it's been such a beautiful journey of exploring who I am, rediscovering what lights my heart and soul on fire, the things that I truly enjoy, sharing my voice with the world, and coming home to myself, which is why my platform is called Her Journey Home, because you truly come home to yourself when you're no longer outsourcing your power and your worth to everyone else. So now I'm here. I have my coaching business, my podcast, and it's really my mission on this planet to help women step into their authenticity, to come home to their truth, and to really live a life that is so purpose driven and fulfilling and healthy, where they can truly fulfill their soul's mission, what they came here to do.
Wow, beautifully said. Yeah, we met in a coffee shop and we connected. There's that energy, there's that soul to soul connection that you feel with someone that has been on a challenging journey as I was myself. And you just you feel like you find your tribe, and it just opens up a whole world of that's refreshing, and it reinforces um, all the good things that come with the hard struggles. So you know, I talk a lot about business wise personal brand, and the point of this podcast, the mission of this podcast, is really to share stories of how um, inextricably linked our work is to our healing process. We choose our careers sometimes based on the pressures that we grow up on, the expectations that we find ourselves kind of succumbing to, if you will. And so for you to kind of encapsulate all of that in such a succinct way is really refreshing, quite frankly. I'm kind of like, damn, I need to work on my messaging. That was really good. So it comes across as someone who is really, it doesn't mean that you're completely healed or your journey is over, but you have a real strong grasp of who you are, where you came from, how you can help others. Um, Now, so let's talk a little bit about so your coaching. How does that fit in? How did you get specifically to that modality?
That's a really great question. So, actually, in the beginning of my healing journey, I really tried so many things. I'm a manifesting generator. I don't know if you know anything about human design, but one of my qualities is trial and error. So, the first thing that I started doing was focusing on my physical body. So, working out, going to the gym, taking Pilates classes, and really just becoming healthy. And then I started doing a lot of visualization. So connecting in with my future self, really imagining and feeling and embodying all of the feelings of that woman. And then I was journaling, practicing gratitude. And I did so many things, breath work, somatics, and I got a lot of certifications. But the one modality that truly has transformed my life is EFT tapping. And I started doing it about a year ago, but I was actually introduced to it 2 years ago before I got sober at an ayahuasca journey. So I went and did ayahuasca, and one of the people there was actually an EFT practitioner. And at the time, I didn't actually understand it. He went through it, but it was just not really connecting with me because I hadn't gotten sober yet. I hadn't truly removed all of the limitations I'd placed on myself. And so it's kind of a full circle moment because after that ayahuasca journey is when I decided to really start to transform my life. And so about a year ago, I started to watch YouTube videos on EFT tapping, and it just really transformed how I showed up in my business and in my personal life. It helps me build confidence. It helps me clear limiting beliefs like I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. Who am I to start this business and share my story? And it really helps me to rewire limiting beliefs subconsciously and also regulate my nervous system. Because for most of my life, I was in survival, fight or flight, constantly just running away and not wanting to face my fears or my emotions. And so EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It dates back all the way to ancient Chinese medicine. And it's such a beautiful modality because it's very gentle, but essentially you tap on the meridian points on your body while focusing on a specific belief or emotion. And it literally will help you free the emotions, which is why it's called Emotional Freedom Technique. So it helps to remove stagnant energy blockages. It helps rewire your subconscious and regulates your nervous system. And so I really just had the most insane impact and transformation on my journey that I realized, okay, this is the modality I need to share with the world and go all in on. Because when you find that one thing that just is so incredible, I want everyone to have it in their back pocket. And it's also just a modality you can do from anywhere. You don't have to have your eyes closed or be in a safe space. You can do it in the back of an Uber, a taxi, like on your way to work. Anytime that you're feeling heightened emotions, whether it's overwhelm or anxiety or stress, it literally will send a signal when you're tapping on the meridians to the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for processing fear and stress. And it sends a signal letting it know I am safe. So if you're ever feeling any of those emotions, this will immediately help you to free them.
You know, it's so interesting. I listen to people when they're talking, not because I would judge them, but because I'm looking for judgment. And what I love about you is that you didn't say this doesn't work. Like what worked for you was great. You tried different things, and one modality was helpful. And the reason I bring this up is because I've tried all kinds of things. Some things work, some things didn't. But when someone pushes one thing over another, again, there's an inherent judgment in that. And
Mm.
it's like, just because it doesn't work for you doesn't mean it won't work for somebody else. And so the beauty in how you share just these different modalities and the one that seemed to work for you. And that's the thing, is that, someone might say, well, I didn't, they might go into talk therapy, a psychodynamic therapy, um, or, a cognitive behavioral therapy or life coaching, and then they just stop. And that's because I think a lot of people scratch the surface and then they run a little bit. And the people who are just trying to heal will do, try anything. Take two steps forward, one step back, blah, blah, blah. And so what I think is nice to share is that, one thing may work for someone, and, you might have to try something else, but there's no one size fits all. And, but that's kind of inherent how my mind works. Is I used to be very judgmental, a lot of
Mm.
dichotomous thinking, all or nothing. And so part of my growth is to see the duality and the dialectic. And that's so important. Speaking of dialectical behavior therapy, I find that, wow, when I'm less judgmental, I can actually open up to different things that may help me. So it's so nice that you've learned that in a much shorter amount of time, but nonetheless. So, and your focus though is also working with women in particular, and that's because you can really identify with their experience based on your childhood, presumably. Okay, do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that a little?
Absolutely. So I've kind of toyed with the idea of working with both men and women. But when I really got clear with myself and I gave myself space to really just connect in with myself and what I desire, I just feel like because of the path that I have walked, I resonate so much with a woman's journey and what she's navigating, like her beliefs, her stories, her patterns. And I have walked that exact journey. And so I just feel so called in my heart and soul to work with women. And maybe at some point in my life, I will change that, because it's not that I don't believe men should heal, or they're not like, everyone deserves healing. But I just feel like right now I can really, really help that woman. And one day, if I feel called, then I will absolutely expand. And also, I really want to speak on stages one day. I want to do things that are so that can impact millions of people regardless of their gender. And so right now I think my coaching is for women, but eventually that could change.
Yeah, the gender dynamic is interesting. I ask male and female friends whether they have a coach or therapist, as to whether they have a preference in who they choose, man or woman. And it's interesting. I happen to find, um, I used to believe that, oh, I need a woman therapist or coach because they're more nurturing. But, that again is a very rigid belief, that I need to dispel. So that's kind of why I asked the question. And uh, you also are doing retreats, right? According to your website. Are you still doing that? Or
It's a big goal of mine. So I have a plan to do one in Guatemala coming up. I haven't fully mapped it out just yet, but retreats and travel for me are my biggest passions. Travel for me has been one of the biggest parts of my healing journey. I've traveled to over 25 countries, and really connecting in with myself and immersing myself in a culture has shifted my perspective and just so much in my life. And so I really want to build out retreats and experiences for women that are ready to fully honor their truth. I want to have retreats that are so fun and immersive, and we get to let our inner child have fun and play. And also do the EFT tapping and meditations, visualizations, and have it really be a fun and immersive experience. So that is on the vision board for this year.
I know someone who was very involved with, she worked with an owner of a sober living house for women, and maybe also men as well. What is your take on that? is that imperative for someone to go through on their journey of sobriety, or not necessarily?
That's actually a great question. So I'm going to give two answers for this because I personally don't identify as an alcoholic.
Mhm.
I grew up in a family where there was a lot of alcoholism present. So I think it really comes down to that specific person's healing journey. I think if they are consciously choosing to give up alcohol for their health and to come home to themselves, I don't believe that sober living or AA is necessary. But if you are codependent on alcohol and you do identify as an alcoholic and it's really taking control over your life, then I think a path like that could be helpful. Now, I say could be because it's so individual to every person. I have a lot of people in my life that are sober for all different reasons, and they've all taken a different path. I have family members that did AA and they found it very helpful. I have friends that were in AA and they realized that they didn't resonate with it. They wanted to feel more empowered and consciously choose, I don't want this anymore. I want to open up my life to opportunities and experience life. And so I really just think it boils down to what that person is needing, the kind of structure that they need, the kind of accountability that they need, and choosing what feels right to them. And I don't like to say that one way is wrong because what works for one person, as we were saying before, doesn't necessarily work for another. And so it's really just so personal.
Yeah, it's 90% of Americans, I think, could qualify as being codependent. And Codependence Anonymous, which I've explored myself, uh, was fascinating, but like you kind of alluded to, some things don't grab you until it's the right time. And so you can try something and it just doesn't click. And then you try something else and then you go back to it and it totally makes sense. And this is a thing that's not taught to people when they're on a journey of post-traumatic growth, if you will, right? So to me, what would be really helpful in mental health advocacy if people understood that, an orientation, if they had an orientation program before they tried a modality, because something may work, it may not work at that time, right? So all these nuanced aspects of healing are important. They don't teach you that in school. They teach you algebra. So, anyways, yeah. So, um, I think it's great. Now, now you have plans to come back to the West Coast. Is there a is it, will your coaching change at all, or how does that fit into your work?
That's a great question. So I am moving back to Santa Barbara I'm actually going to be back from May through July and then moving back officially December. And it's a pretty cool coming home story because I lived in Santa Barbara 8 years ago, but I was in a very, very different time in my life. I was drinking, partying, numbing, and just very disconnected from myself. And I was recently back 3 weeks ago when I met you, and I hosted my first ever women's event with 14 women. And it was so incredible because it felt like I was back in a brand new place, but with a beautiful community and all my best friends. And everything just seemed to align for me. So I thought to myself, this is the perfect place to build a community because everyone there is really into that health and wellness and coming home to themselves. And so I plan to move back. And I think my coaching will evolve as I evolve. I think right now I'm offering, my one-to-one coaching online. I'm offering one-off calls. I'm offering my podcast and my YouTube, but I really have a deep desire to bring women together in person. I think that there's nothing comparable to in person building relationships and feeling everyone's energy. So I'm actually looking into getting my sound healing certification as well. Music has always been a really big part of my life, and I'm trying to figure out how I can incorporate that into my coaching. So I want to put together weekend retreats in Santa Barbara, maybe near LA. I would love to do in-person experiences for women that really want to go a lot deeper. And then I think I'm just going to see where it goes from there. I have a soul knowing that I'm meant to do more in person than sitting behind a screen on Zoom. I enjoy this type of connection, but I really enjoy the in person. I think that's truly so transformational.
It's interesting you say that. there is a sound healer, an energy, a frequency. What do you call it? Sound healing? Or
Yeah, sound healing practitioner.
okay, she actually goes to that same coffee shop. I will get her information for you and send it to you because that's what she does.
Amazing.
I know another person who does it. And there's also this app that I can't recommend enough to people, Time Left. You may have heard of it. But the beauty of Time Left is every time I've gone on there, no one's thinking, oh, we're going to talk about therapeutic relationships or coaching, whatever. But what comes out of that, and perhaps it's because since COVID, there's been this collective trauma, relatively speaking, that, people, maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's the community here in the San Fernando Valley, whatever it is. But people tend to talk about these very things. We talk about our careers and we talk about our struggles. And 9 times out of 10, the conversation will go deep into, what's working for someone. And these are not people who are necessarily the most spiritually inclined. These are everyday people that are just sharing stories. So it's a great app that I'm sure you can take advantage of as well. Uh,
Amazing. I'm going to look into that. I've heard of it, but I haven't really gotten on there.
yeah, because it's so in person, and it's like, wow, I mean, there have been therapists and coaches on there, and they, again, don't go there planning to talk about their trade, their craft, their healing journey, but ultimately that's what happens. Uh,
Wow.
so, yeah. So, as far as, um, you know, coaching clients, are the clients typically of a range of ages, or are they more typically people of your generation, or how's that gone for you?
Yeah, so far they've really varied in age, anywhere from late 20s to early 40s. So I would say it's about a 10-year gap. And again, I'm not really that specific in terms of the age, but I do think that someone who is, in their 30s, they're navigating what I navigated, we can really, really connect on that. I may not be able to be as beneficial for someone that's in their 50s. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that. I think that everyone deserves a space to heal, but I'm really connected with the women that are closer in age just because I was them less than 3 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't ask because I thought you would at all be particular in that regard, but from marketing standpoint, some people are going to be drawn to you for different reasons. So I was curious. In fact, it's funny. I saw something on Facebook today where it was in a life coach. In fact, I should send you this group as well. There's a Facebook group for life coaches. I mean, it's within your realm, right? Not so specific, but a woman was asking. She said she had a client who presumably was on the autism spectrum, and she posted something. It was a bit awkward. It was, is it ethical for me to take this client on? And she got some heated feedback, but I think people ultimately had some compassion for her. She didn't mean to phrase it the way she did. It was perhaps a little offensive to people, but it really stuck out to me because um, that's a quandary. Is it ethical to take on that person? Um, and uh, knowing, how you have kind of really built up your self-esteem, confidence, your strength as just as someone on a healing journey who's really grounded is what I really mean to say. Um, you would have been able to frame that question in a different way. Not saying that you would have proposed it in the first place, but anyways, I just think that it's very interesting how people tackle this issue, and I'm just so impressed at how you seem to really have the bases covered because of Instagram and other social media platforms. There are people who adopt, and I'm not suggesting it's spiritual bypassing or anything, but they adopt the spirit, the guru mentality, but that's because they see the opportunity, and they don't necessarily mean to exploit something, but they may not be as authentic as someone like you, and so presumably they'll find their way, and and they will be able to embody what they really want to stand for and embrace the kind of um, uh, journey that everyone is kind of ultimately seeking. But anyways, I wanted to ask you, God, that was circuitous. How do you think of some of these people? What is your peer group? Do you have a lot of coaches in your peer group? Tell me a little bit about that. God, that was an awkward way to phrase a question.
That's okay. Don't worry. I understand. It came across. So actually, I do have a lot of friends that are within the health and wellness space. And I would say I have a lot of coaches in my network per se. So I connected with a lot of amazing people online. And I had to let go of a lot of friendships on this healing journey because I was growing in one direction, they were going in another. And so I really wanted to surround myself with people that were motivating and inspiring, that we could connect on business and connect on our healing journeys. And so I've connected with so many amazing coaches within the healing space. And so that's actually one of my favorite parts about this business is getting to talk to women and other people on their journeys, like hearing their raw, vulnerable stories, which is why I started my podcast. And so, yeah, lots of people in my network for sure.
Yeah, moving on from people who don't serve you is interesting because as someone who uh, I myself, with my own attachment trauma history, I had the hardest time letting people go that weren't good for me, right? Like it's kind of hard to tell someone who has an insecure attachment style or who isn't healed in that regard and highly codependent, that person isn't serving you. It may make sense at the outset, but that if you're wounded, that's tough to let go of people. You're hoarding people, if you can, because you fear that abandonment and whatever your personality adaptation may be. So
Yep.
um, it's nice to now for me to know that that's an okay thing to do, because people can tell me it's another thing to try and do that if you're not feeling particularly secure.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, well, I'm just so impressed. I'm envious because my journey was probably a lot longer than it had to be, and I like how you've really kind of consolidated things and know where you want to go, and you've really kind of synthesized this information because it's deep. It's deep stuff. It's you know um I was thinking depth psychology. If you know, I don't know if it's a generational thing or if I just took a very circuitous route, but I think it's rare to find someone to like you who has really kind of in a shorter span of time been able to work on these things, whether it's inner child healing work or sobriety issues or whatever it is. So I commend you for that. Um,
Thank you so much. It's been a journey, a beautiful journey.
Now, are you at all nervous to relocate again? Like, is there any anxiety, or are you just totally chill with that?
I'm very chill. I mean, honestly, I'm so grounded now and so calm, and I have so much inner peace, which took a long time to get to this place. And I will say that I've moved so many times in my life, and that was a part of my escapism. Anytime I was going through something difficult and I didn't want to face it, I would move somewhere. I've lived in like 6 different states, but this time feels very different because I'm choosing it out of alignment versus fear or trying to escape something. And I've lived in Santa Barbara before, so I already have friends, I already have my community, I already have a place to live. So it really just took the guesswork and all the like difficult things usually that come with moving. And so this time I'm actually not stressed at all. And I just keep telling myself I trust that this is meant to happen for me. And if it's meant to be, it'll work out, right? Like the things that are meant for you will never miss you. And so I just know in my soul that this is the right move. So I feel so grounded this time versus like that frantic, I need to get out of here energy. I'm just like, I'm ready to be back home.
Yeah, a therapist once told me, wherever, like I would say, I would try to escape too, right? I would find a reason or a place, and they would say, well, wherever you go, there you are, right? And I never understood that. You know, you're in a chase and survival mode is the word, right? A chasing and survivalist mode is something I was so accustomed to. Now it's pretty foreign to me, but it didn't occur to me that most people aren't like that. Or I shouldn't say most people, not everybody is like that, right? And so um, to find to find your way home, to use your brand, tell us a little more about the brand, just because I think that's why it's so perfect.
Absolutely. So I was actually meditating one day and the name Her Journey Home hit me and I started crying because I was like, oh my gosh, this has been my journey. I literally have been on this entire path of rediscovering myself and learning about what I enjoy, using my voice, spreading my light, speaking on the things that I desire to speak on. And for so many years, I was off the path. I was disconnected. I was searching for that love and validation. And it has been the most beautiful journey of coming home to myself. And so when I think of Her Journey Home, it's a woman's journey home to herself. And essentially, what that means is coming back to her truth, right? Like recognizing her essence, what makes her light up and get excited, what really brings her so much joy and peace and happiness, and really helping her come home to her body, right? Like regulating the nervous system, feeling so safe in who you are, being able to sit with your own energy. Because for so many years of my life, I couldn't sit with myself. I had to get into a relationship, I had to drink to avoid facing the pain that I felt underneath. I had to move to escape. I never wanted to face myself and what was underneath. And so her journey home is her journey back to herself, her body, her mind, her soul. And so it's just the most fitting title, fitting name. And it's even more beautiful now that I'm going back to Santa Barbara because I'm literally going back home to where I used to live. So it's like really her journey home.
Now, as a podcast, who do you have? Do you have guests on, or do you just do primarily talking from your heart?
Both. So I've been doing a lot of guest interviews with women all across the board, actually, like mindset coaches, digital nomads, because I love to travel, manifestation coaches, somatic healers. I've connected with a lot of people. And it's one of my favorite parts about having a podcast because I get to share, I get to give them a space to share their story. And for me, it's not about if they have a thriving business or if they're, years into their craft. For me, it's a space for a woman to feel seen again, to show up and to speak about her raw, authentic story. So I do both.
Yeah, I think we talked about this, and with regard to, you know, you're not doing it simply to network, but the benefits are there, the collateral benefits of networking within your community and building your community. Um, uh, because you know, this this realm is so broad. I think that people think that it's a more narrow discipline, and it's just so broad. There's so many different kinds of disciplines within spiritual growth, and so yeah, no, I think you're well on the right track with that. I was going to ask you about yeah, so where do you see yourself in, like, I know you talked about the retreats and stuff, but like in 5 years, where do you see yourself?
Oh, I love this question. I see myself creating incredible expansion experiences for women and doing trips all around the world. And I'm talking like one a month or one every couple of months and really bringing women together. That is my ultimate vision. I want to create experiences where women feel seen, where they feel that deep sense of belonging, where they're able to fully express themselves, like be in all of their rawness, all of their authenticity, and have a group of women that are truly holding space and loving and supporting them. That is my big vision. I see myself having a top rated podcast. I see myself having a huge YouTube channel with EFT tappings and a platform for women to share their stories. So there will still be probably coaching within that, but I really see myself traveling, speaking at events, and really just holding space for women.
Beautiful. Do you want to give people a way to connect with you? Just tell us your website and your podcast again. I just want people to reinforce this for their promotional benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. So you can connect with me on Instagram at Sophia Graniela. So my name's spelled out. Please DM me. I have my website and everything linked there. So you just click the link in my bio. And I have a couple of different offers. I'm actually launching my one-to-one 90-day program, which is a deep, intimate experience with me called The Journey Home. And it essentially uses my home method. And we will walk you through coming home to yourself, allowing you to really step into the woman who chases after her heart and soul's desires. We will help you uncover limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck. We will help you to regulate your nervous system, build healthy habits that actually align with the version of yourself that you desire to step into. And you will literally start to create massive transformation in your life because you will be stepping into this new identity through the home method. And it's a beautiful blend of EFT tapping, inner child healing, and all the modalities and tools that I've used on my journey. And so within 90 days, you will begin taking action on your dreams, showing up for yourself, building a healthy mind, body, and soul, and truly coming home to yourself. So you can DM me on Instagram. You can book a call with me. I offer a free clarity call just to see if our energy aligns. And if you just have any questions about sobriety, healing, changing your life, just reach out to me. I'm always so happy to connect with people and share my wisdom. And I also have a podcast called Her Journey Home. So if you're listening to really just tap into what it is that you desire in life and to start to honor your truth and take yourself out of the box that you've been putting yourself in for so many years and just allow yourself to be you, my podcast is exactly for that woman, the ambitious, free spirit, multi-passionate woman who's ready to come home to herself. So you can also listen to that on Apple and Spotify Music.
Wow, you're good. You are eloquent and concise, and I love it.
Thank
Um,
you.
well, thank you very much. Hopefully, we'll have you back on soon enough to talk about your journey here back in California. So, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a true pleasure, and I would love to come back when I'm in California.
Sounds good. Bye, everybody.